If you watched my last video and you're interested in implementing the same project planning API with your Tave and teamwork.com account, but you want to go the shortcut route, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how to implement my blueprint for your make.com account so you can get this up and running in just a few simple steps. So let's get started. Now, obviously, the first thing you're going to need is a teamwork.com account, a Tave account, and a make.com account. If you don't already have those, go ahead and sign up. Use the links in my description if you'd like before this video starts. Now, you'll also need my blueprint, which is the first blueprint covering the complete Tave.com project into teamwork.com integration. So that'll also be linked in the description here. Now, in order for my blueprint to work right out of the gate, you're going to have to configure a few fields to be exactly the same as I've configured them on my end. First, let's go into your teamwork.com account and get your API key. You can find this under your profile name, followed by Edit My Details. And then under API and Mobile here, you'll have an option to create your token. If you show your token, you can copy it if you've already created it. And just create a note doc and set this aside for later, just so you can come back and reference it. So I'm just going to have a little note doc here, just so you can see what we're working with. So we have our Teamwork API key. So that's the first one. Next, we're going to get our teamwork.com URL, which once you set that up initially with your account, you'll see it right at the top. So flashbulb.teamwork.com is mine for my company. So I'm just going to copy the flashbulb portion here. And once again, we'll add that to our note. Now we're going to get the custom fields that we need created for this project. You actually only need one custom field, and on their base plan and up, you get 3 custom fields. So the other 2 are up to you, however you want to use that. But the only one we're using in this tutorial is Tave job.id API, which is a text field. So let's make sure we have this typed in correctly. We're going to add custom field, type it exactly as you see, make sure there's no spaces at the end or the start. Field type is text, and you can leave the description blank and then go ahead and hit save. So with that done, I'm going to add this here. So project custom ID. You actually don't need to make a note of this, but just to cover what we've covered so far in the video, I'm writing it down. Now we're also going to need to create our proper tag for the notebook assignment. So we're going to go into our settings here, if you're not already on that screen. And we should see up at the top, it says tags. And we're going to have this imported Tave tag. So just add a new tag, name it imported space Tave. You can give it any color you'd like. I chose purple because that is Tave's color. We've got the tag. Close this. So this is our project tag, imported Tave. Perfect. Now that we have the imported Tave tag, let's take a look at our templates. Now this one's going to take the most time to set up because this is custom to you. So obviously you want this to be something that you can actually use. In my case, my template here is generalized for pretty much all of our events. And there is a way, which we're not covering in this video, to create additional templates that you can have add and merge into your existing task list based on certain things that are booked. So I'm going to cover that in a future video, but for now, go ahead and get started on creating your project template that will be your base template for all of your events that flow through Tave. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. You'll want to assign due dates. When you click into your task, you can see here your due date is given. If I click my edit button, I can modify that. Start date is not necessary. We're going to be working with due dates here, and we're going to base it on our project planning timeline. So for the project planning timeline, your last due date is the end of your project, essentially. So in my case, I actually wanted to track a day after my live event, photo booth event. So my due date for the photo booth event is 90 days. That's using my 90-day timeline. And day 91 is the day after the event of when those gallery images need to be uploaded. We want to ask for reviews, that kind of stuff. So if you just want your project to end at the day of your event, day 90, if you want to use a 90-day timeline, this would be your final day. You wouldn't have a post-event category. If you want it to end a day after, a week after, a month after, depending on how much follow-up you have to do, especially if you're a photographer and you need to edit these photos, then you can adjust that accordingly. Now, if you want a longer timeline, let's say you want it to be over the course of 4, 5, or 6 months, then you'll basically need to start at the end with your 6-month timeline and then work your way backwards to see when a given task that you've created would eventually become due within that timeline. So that's going to allow you to automate the project based on the job end date and give you a series of due dates accordingly. So you can format this however you'd like. You can see I do have subtasks set up for this. I have different project categories for our pre-planning versus live event versus post-event. So go ahead and configure this however you'd like and then come back here when you're done. Now the next thing is our notebooks. So go ahead and open the notebooks panel, and if you don't see it, click more and you'll see it down here. Click the gear followed by add category, name it Tave, make sure not to nest this under any other categories, and click add. You can optionally give it a color. Again, I've chose purple just to go with the Tave theme, but totally optional there. Open up my notes. So we have category, notebook, category is Tave, and we have our template created. Now also on the template itself, you'll want to make sure to give it a name exactly as you see here, Tave General Events All. So I'm going to put my template name is here, Tave General Events All. And with that set, you can also further customize your project template however you'd like. And also keep in mind, if you want to come back later and add to this in terms of creating new tasks or assigning out which tasks go to which users, especially if you hire a new staff member and want to get them integrated, you can always come in here and modify your project template, and it'll always use the latest instance of that template. So feel free to revise this as you go, depending on your needs. Now with teamwork.com out of the way, we're going to switch over to tave.com, and we're going to need a few things in here. The first is our API key. So if you're on the settings page and you go to API integrations, you'll see down here we have API keys. Click new API key and create that key. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is once you've created this key, it gets redacted. If I try to edit the key, you can see it's not visible. So go ahead and save this somewhere that you're not going to lose. Maybe put it in a secure email or note document. I'm just going to add it here, Tave API ID, to say we covered it. But of course, mine is already integrated, so I don't need to worry about the full ID. All right, with all of that out of the way, we're ready to implement the blueprint on your account. So let's log in to make.com, visit your scenarios tab on the left, create a new scenario, and at the bottom here, click the dots followed by import blueprint and go ahead and select that blueprint. Then click save. Your blueprint will load as you see here, and we just have to configure a few key fields. The first is going to be your custom webhook. You need to set up a new webhook address here in order for this to work. So go ahead and click add. You can name it whatever you want, but I recommend Tave imported jobs booked. And I'm just going to say test because I want to delete this when I'm done, and hit save. You're going to get this web address, as you can see. Go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. And then we're going to go back into Tave, visit our settings, and then automations. And we're going to create a new automation. Now for this automation, we can name it job booked, or actually for these automations, I like to have the word make in front of it, just so you know it's assigned to a make.com integration. And we're going to be observing the job milestone reached booked. We're going to execute immediately. You can enable it, save and continue. And then we're going to add an action here of web request. Now for the web request URL, you're going to copy that make.com webhook URL you just got and paste it into here. And then after that URL, you're going to paste what you see here. I'll include this in the description just so it's easy to copy and paste. But what we're doing is passing the Tave job ID, the job name, and the API version of the job ID to that address. Go ahead and hit save and continue when you're done. And again, make sure this is enabled. Now, if you want to test this live, you're going to have to create a job. You can mark it as a lead and then manually mark it as booked to see that job flow into make.com. If you want to use this on an existing job, we'll revisit at the end and I'll show you a quick shortcut to repeat this for jobs that have already been booked. Now back into your make.com, you can see it's searching, waiting for information. Just go ahead and click OK and click into this Tools Multiple Variable step. Now this is where we're going to copy some of those values that I mentioned in my notebook here. So your teamwork.com API key, you're going to paste that right there. The project planning days is going to be based off of your project planning timeline that you created your template out of in your teamwork.com account. So again, if your project planning timeline to the delivery is your final day, in my case, 90 days, that's what you're going to enter here. Just make sure it's a number and nothing else. On the third variable, you're going to enter your teamwork.com account URL. So go ahead and just type in that portion here that you saved for the URL and make sure it has a / at the end. Then click OK. Now you're just going to want to save this scenario. You'll see the pop-up there confirming, and then turn it on. Okay, great. So we are fully integrated. Now, if you want to test this quickly, you can of course create the job, a fake job in Tave, move it from lead to booked after you fill everything out and see your data flow through. But another great way to test this, and also a great way to import your existing data, is to go back into our Tave automations, find the automation we just created for that job booked milestone, and we're going to duplicate it. We're going to make one key change. So instead of job booked, we're going to do task completed, and we're going to be observing task completed. Make sure you enable it, save and continue. And now anytime you go into a job and you visit your task list, you can check the box on any task. Just make sure it's a subtask, not the parent level task list that you're marking as complete. And when you check that box, it's going to push that data into your make.com integration automatically. And that's it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And of course, I'd love to hear your suggestions on any future videos relating to Tave, teamwork.com, make.com, or any other integration that you'd be interested in seeing for your business. Thanks so much for watching.